Welcome to Free Your Mind viewers. It's another opportunity to come to you wherever you're watching. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to free your mind. Free Your Mind here, Mr. Larry Johnson, Free Your Mind show. We're happy to be on the beautiful Milwaukee South Side with my good friend, as you can recognize, Mr. Hilario. Hilario is a person who has a lot of passion. And I want Hilario to introduce to you who he is and what he's doing here today.
Well, thank you for coming, Larry. We appreciate you being here in our office. We're located here at 1310 West Lincoln Avenue, the RNC Hispanic Community Center. And as he mentioned, my name is Hilario Deleon, and I am the second vice chair of the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. And so there's a chairman, there's the first vice chair, and then there's the second vice chair. I was just recently appointed so to help carry out and help grow the county party and make it more of an effective political organization here within Milwaukee County.
That's awesome, Hilario. And I've known you for a couple of years. I think it's been a couple of years now.
Yes.
And Hilario, I've always teased him that he's a brave brother. This guy is a brave guy. He was running the office. Where were you running that office in Milwaukee, Hilario?
The Republican Party of Wisconsin had an office during the Trump campaign in 2020, on 3rd and North of Milwaukee. So up on the north side, people tend to avoid the area or be hesitant to go over there only because of crime and just other stories going on. But I was there every day and had a lot of people coming into the office and doing work, or at least checking us out and seeing who we really were. So that was a very interesting experience. I was 19 at the time. I'm right now 21, so it's been a few years.
And he did get older, so that means that he survived. And if you guys want to remember, is 3rd Street is actually Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. So now you can kind of get where it is geographically. So it's a pretty tough area. I wouldn't even be over that in that area on certain times of the day, but
it wasn't as bad as people thought.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I had a very good experience up there. Although we did have people spray paint our office on the outside, and we had a car crash into it, but that was because there was a drunk driver. But people were very kind and nice to us. Even on the bus stop, you had people coming in, just checking us out, seeing. They always thought we were the tax office, of course, but that was right down the road, so we always had great hospitality and directed them to exactly where they needed to go and provided them with the correct information as to who we were and what our party actually stands for.
And Hilario, along those lines, what kind of reception did you get from most people?
There were some that they tried to fight us, or they would question, like, what are you doing here? But most people, they were genuinely curious, or they were happy to see us. Same thing down here. People have been very supportive. We haven't had any issues. We've had people driving by. Same thing, like I said, up at MLK. We had people coming in here asking if this was the tax office. Or if we were. Right. I had one person say, "Is this a Chinese restaurant?" And I looked around and I'm like, "No."
But that's amazing, Hilario, and I think it's about how you approach people, how you deal with people. Even on the south side here in Milwaukee, this is pretty much what you say Hispanic, or what population would you say a majority of Hispanic, or?
So I would say at this time there is a very large Hispanic population that has lived here. I grew up on the south side. I was born here in Milwaukee. Grew up on 28th and Harrison for about 15 years until we moved to South Milwaukee. But for some reason, I've always been drawn back here. And here I am in my old stomping ground, now working for the Republican Party of Wisconsin and also helping campaign for the Republican Party of Milwaukee County.
Okay. And so your position here, Hilario, is what exactly do you do? How does this work?
So this is a national party office. There's 3 offices located right now within Milwaukee County. We have this office being the national party office, and then we have the office up on 3rd and North and MLK that is state party office, and then out on Highway 100 we have the Republican Party of Milwaukee County headquarters in the West Dallas area. This office is as I said, a Hispanic community center, or just a community center in general. Everyone is welcome to come here, and my position I call myself the office director because
Okay.
I'm always here doing stuff and
Right,
getting
right.
people organized, having meetings here,
Mhm.
reaching out into the actual community, and that is the purpose of this office. There are many times people would say that the Republican Party has failed to reach out into the
Yeah.
community, even
Right.
though our history has shown that we've been there.
Mhm.
Just over time, people have either lost trust,
Okay.
faith, or the messaging. The messaging
Yeah, yeah.
is what has failed on our part in the past. And the
Okay.
Democrat Party has really strengthened that. They've
Mhm.
had their hands on everything, whether it's from the schools to the churches to the community. They have a strong presence here.
Okay.
And we're here now. We want to hear what the concerns are and
Okay.
how we can help people get them connected, whether it's their local alderman or someone in the state legislature, or maybe we could possibly come up with some proper bills that
Okay.
get people encouraged to be involved in their government, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, right, right.
So,
Getting people
so that is really what my position is here,
Okay.
is to be that kind of bridge between
Mhm.
the party and the
Mhm.
people in the community.
Okay, that's great. And, the Hispanic, and I'm familiar with this area. It's approximately 13th and Lincoln area, and it's pretty much a busy, busy intersection here, and it's a lot of, you guys get a lot of traffic, I'm sure. I mean, do you have people can people just walk in and
Yes.
and inquire what's going on?
Yeah, so we have basically, I guess you could say, an open door policy.
Okay.
Everyone is welcome to come in. We have the open sign always turned around so that people
Okay.
can know they can come in. We've had people just, I guess you could say, the regular Joes just
Yeah.
walking in and checking the
Okay.
place out, or
Yeah.
people that are from the neighborhood. We've talked with some of the neighboring businesses, and we're building on those relations
Right, right, right.
so that we have
Mhm.
a strong presence here,
Yeah.
and show them that we are a friendly,
Okay.
we are a friendly people.
Right. I mean, you guys, we're just regular people. I'm just saying weird because I tend to lean toward the right, but I want to hear each party, promote yourself to me. Give me a reason to vote for you. Let people know what you're standing for.
Hmm.
And so I think that you guys are doing a good job. Can you, where would a person find this? 'Cause it's not the easiest way to find this when you're coming from the west, because the building actually sits
Right.
facing the east.
So I guess you could, one way to do it is go on Google, type
Okay.
in RNC Hispanic Community Center Milwaukee, and you'll find us right away. Our address is 1310 West Lincoln Avenue, as I mentioned before.
Okay.
We are we're kind of kitty corner of the Citgo across the street. That's the gas station, and then over there is the BMO Harris Bank, and then just right across from us on our right over here is the furniture store.
Okay.
So we're in a little strip mall
Okay,
here,
okay, that's
or a
good.
little plaza, as one would say.
Yeah, I would think that would be a good way to identify it. Great, and people, come on down, Google it, like you say, Google Map. They'll usually bring it up. Maybe Google Map won't bring it up, but they should bring it up. Let's put it that way.
Well, every time that I've looked it up, it's there because I got it set up there.
That's why it's there. Hilario did it. So the purpose of the RNC Community Center and the other offices, did you answer that question? What the purpose of it is?
Yeah,
You
so,
kind of got into it. Yeah.
so I mean, just like this office, the other offices are the same way, but not all the offices are open at the same time. So
Okay.
this office is open every day because I'm here.
Okay.
The West Dallas office is open on Saturdays
Okay.
from varying hours,
Mhm.
and then the MLK office, that's what we call the state party
Yeah.
office.
Okay.
That office is open usually from 9 to 3 during the week.
Okay.
My coworker should be there.
Okay.
But yeah, they too have an open door policy and are willing to give people the proper
Right.
information, because the media at times tends to always spin us in a negative light. They paint us as
No.
monsters, and we're really not. We're
Right.
human beings.
Now,
who-
this guy, he doesn't seem intimidating, does he? Like,
No.
he's like your typical neighborhood.
Now, if I had my suit on, maybe, but
He could be a little intimidating with that suit on, I'm gonna tell you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree, Hilario. And but what kind of community outreach are you guys I mean, how long have you been over here? Not very long, I would think.
So this office was opened back, I believe, in October. That was before I was hired on. I was at the office opening. Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, the chairwoman of the Republican Party, the Republican National Party,
Okay.
was here. And some of the stuff when I got hired on, I was told to keep the office open and
Yeah.
get volunteers in here, and which I have done. And
Okay.
we have volunteer logbooks. Today, actually, we're having a job fair at 6 o'clock. We're partnered with some of the local staffing agencies within this community
Okay.
that are going to be coming in here and having tables, and people who are interested in looking for a job or getting hired by these staffing agencies, they
Okay.
can come in and interact with these communities or with these organizations. And we've advertised it. I've had volunteers go out and drop off literature and flyers to
Okay.
different people. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Another thing that we're doing is
One second, Hilario. And this may be, the show may be taped, certain parts of it, so that date, what is today's date that you want to talk about that?
So today
job fair.
is February 7th.
Okay.
And 2022, just in
Right,
case
right.
people forget that we're
Okay.
in a new year.
So
So that
that'll
will be
be-
at 6 p.m. tonight.
Today, that'll be the 7th,
Yes.
because this show may be taped a different, so if the show is after the 7th, there's not going to be a community job fair.
Right.
But we'll try to get this part out so that people can get a chance. What time is that?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And what kind of people are going to be career people going to be here?
Probably people that are who are part of the staffing agencies. They'll
Okay.
have flyers for different jobs and positions, both part-time and
Okay.
full-time. There's about 3 of them that we've partnered up with, and if it is successful, we hope to partner with other organizations
Okay.
to come and do the same thing, whether it's geared towards people who need just part-time jobs, or even former veterans,
Okay.
or veterans that are looking for jobs. We'd love to do that as well.
Great, great. And we'll try to get that out in time. Got some crazy hours. But we'll try to get some parts of it out and let people know about it.
I can send you pictures.
Okay,
of the
and that'll be
event.
helpful too, because like I said, I'm kind of banned on a lot of the social media for putting anything out there. Mr. Zuckerberg is not my friend anymore, and we don't exchange gifts anymore, so that's over with. So we'll try our best to get this out in some kind of way.
There you go.
We're flying below the radar. But the issues, let's talk about the issues. Let's get right into the part where I guess a lot of people want to know, why would anybody vote Republican? I mean, give people a reason to vote Republican, because we don't have a very good record of trying to reach out, like they say, but we know better. But what are the main reasons that you guys want to get people to vote Republican?
Well, you see, the Republican Party has such a rich history. I mean, we were the party that was founded on anti-slavery, and we were for women's rights to vote. We have done so many things in the past that the education system and many other people tend to silence. And now, as you can see, we are the party of the big tent. And that was really helped through President Trump's 2016 election and his administration. The party has really grown, or
Yeah.
at least the movement has. It's become more of a centered on a conservative movement. Everyone is conservative at
Yeah.
heart. And
I believe
at
that, yeah.
times they just don't realize it because they've either been voting Democrat for so many years, or they've been told to vote Democrat. But people are mistaken that
Yeah.
the Democrat Party of today is not the Democrat Party of their fathers or their mothers.
Right.
It has really changed. It has gone off the rails. It has gone towards pushing more socialist policies to where straight up people have, part of the Marxist movement, have
Yeah.
taken it over,
Yeah.
hijacked it from Antifa to BLM to many other organizations.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate thing. We want, I think both parties in the end want the best for everyone.
Right, right.
But it's about how we get there is what makes us different. We tend to be more relying on the private sector rather than the government to bail us out.
Republican Party.
The Republican Party, yes. And Ronald Reagan said it best. Some of the most scariest words, 7 or 9 words in the English language is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And that obviously hasn't been working. We're right now still getting through a pandemic. People have lost their jobs because of government lockdowns by governors. I lost my job during the COVID lockdowns, and it's what pushed me to be more involved in politics, because I had a lot more free time on my hands. Businesses are still trying to get back on their feet. Prices are skyrocketing because of inflation. We have a crisis on our southern border. We have refugees from Afghanistan after that terrible withdrawal, allowing the Taliban to have complete control. We now have them up at Fort McCoy here in Wisconsin, and now they're somewhere within our state and country. We don't really keep track of them.
Right.
Same thing with illegal immigrants and crime. We are suffering from the revolving door crime wave that's happening. Low bail. Waukesha was a perfect example as to why Republican policies are stronger than Democrat policies. And right now we have a Democrat governor and a Democrat president. And almost a completely controlled Congress by the Democrats.
I agree. It's so much, man. It's so much wrong. You don't even know where to start. I mean, and I always said, looking at any Democrat, you have to attach every Democrat to this party. I mean, he's the head of the party. I don't know how you separate yourself. Have you heard any Democrat come out and totally go against what this guy is doing in office, Mr. Biden?
I would say the only 2 people that I've seen do that are Senator Manchin and I always forget her name.
I know you're talking about.
Sinema, Kristen Sinema.
Yeah, and bless their hearts, because I know it's got to be tough, but they're actually doing a lot of damage, because they're, good in a good way, to stopping a lot of these socialist policies that's going through.
Stopping the Build Back Better Act, which is nothing but a Democrat wish list stuffed down the throats of the American people, and would cost my grandchildren's grandchildren. I don't even think they could pay it off.
No. What is it, 30 trillion, I think I heard?
Something like that.
Ooh, goodness, wow.
I'm surprised it's not more.
Yeah, no, as we speak, it probably is still calculating. But yes, it's sad, man. You mentioned a lot of things. Both parties want what's best, but I'm not sure, and maybe that's just me, I'm not sure the Democrat Party really want what's best. I think the Democrat Party, like you said, they're going off the rails.
I believe some do.
Okay, well, some do.
There's some people that have a good intention, but there's a lot of people within the leadership that don't always see it the same way, or that's what it seems like.
Right.
People are being literally forgotten from Afghanistan to even now. People let's look at Milwaukee as an example. The Democrats have had control over Milwaukee for 115 years, and yet they continuously blame Republicans for the issues that go on, from skyrocketing murders to sex trafficking to the drugs that are just poisoning our youth and community. The neighborhoods have been forgotten. Absolutely forgotten, and they've continuously built up downtown, but let's look at our roads. Our roads are falling apart. People are moving out of the city like it's going out of style. They don't want to be here. And that's the unfortunate thing, because Milwaukee is a beautiful city and a beautiful county. It just doesn't help when we have failed leadership at the top that doesn't address the issues head on.
And Hilario, from what I'm seeing now, the people who are trying to run, in particular for mayor now after Barrett, they pretty much sent him on a wild goose chase in Lord knows wherever this place he's in Nebraska.
He's at Luxembourg.
That means pretty much that we're getting rid of you.
We're sorry, Luxembourg.
You have our sympathies. We're glad to get rid of this guy, though. But the mayoral candidates, speaking of Milwaukee, I don't see any of those guys on the Democrat side in particular who are going to do anything to change. I know they're pushing the one guy,
Cavalier Johnson.
Cavalier Johnson. I mean, they're bombarding us with commercials about this guy. Like, that's the guy they've already chosen. Do you feel that way?
So, I don't live in the city. I can't vote, but I do live in the county. And what
Okay.
happens in Milwaukee affects the surrounding areas. Everyone knows that. Waukesha is a perfect example. As a matter of fact, this is going to be shocking for people if they haven't already heard this, but Cavalier Johnson's nephew actually, he stole a car from an 87-year-old woman and also raped her, unfortunately.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
that wasn't really everywhere on the news, but it happened.
I haven't heard that at all.
And
Wow.
Cavalier is a very nice guy,
Okay.
but we don't need nice guys anymore. We need someone that's going to be in there, that's going to tell it like it is, and is going to hit the issues head on. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, so I was in the 8th Aldermanic District, and
Okay.
Bob Donovan was my alderman
Yep.
for 15 years before we moved. But time and time again, he proved to us that he got the job done. All you'd have to do is just go around and ask his constituents, business owners and stuff like that, and ask, how was he as an alderman?
Yes.
And they will tell you that if you needed something done, you wanted to call Bob Donovan.
Right.
And so far out of all the candidates, he's the only one who's truly talking about crime and has a strong platform on crime. If you go to his website, he actually has a crime plan, or
Okay.
a public safety plan is what it's called.
Okay.
So we have a copy of it here in the office, and we encourage people that come in to read it.
Right.
We also have other articles by my friend Chris Kemble, who's currently running as an alderman in Wauwatosa. He wrote an article about the revolving door crime wave, and that really addresses as to how the revolving door got started, and it started initially in the 50s when you had liberal politicians who they wanted to do something a little different rather than the current system we had at the time when it came to arresting people and keeping them in prisons and stuff like that. And by all means, the prisons weren't perfect at all back in the day, and even now we still have issues, but all of that can be addressed as long as we come together and work on it, and not have to look at a study and say, well, statistics say this.
Right.
Studies are all great and dandy, but if you don't do anything with if you don't take action head on, there's no reason why. There's no purpose to the study, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot there to unravel. And one thing I'd say, like you say, Cavalier Johnson, some shocking developments. We'll have to get more on that. We want to make sure that that's what it is. But Bob Donovan, like you said, one thing that struck me about Bob Donovan, that his passion. I mean, whether you know anything about the guy or not, you remember his passion. Bob Donovan has always been someone who I felt loved Milwaukee. I mean, his love for Milwaukee is unquestionable. I mean, you can hear it in his voice, you can hear it in the things he does. The people ask him the same questions, and he gives the same answers. I mean, he loves Milwaukee. He wants nothing but the best for Milwaukee. And just look at how people try to attack him. That's probably a good indication.
And people have to also take into consideration is that people like Bob and other people who've grown up and was born in the city, even me, like, we've become absolutely frustrated with how bad things have gotten. I mean, you turn on the local news and you always see that there's multiple shootings going on in different parts of the county, and it breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Like, how could this happen? Milwaukee is such a great city. One of the main issues is that, one, we are a self-segregated city.
Explain that, because that's the way you stated that is interesting.
Well,
Self-segregated.
Well, if you look at the different parts of the city, there's obviously the south side. People can know it as, there's a lot of Hispanics here, Polish, or people from Polish descent. They were here. The Italians live in a certain part of the city. You have the Hmong community. You have the black community up on the north side. But in between, there's groups of all those groups that I mentioned living with one another in each district. The south side is probably the most diverse of all the districts within the city. But that was over time,
Yeah.
many years ago, long before I was
Right.
on this planet.
And then Hilario, excuse me, and while because you mentioned that, and it struck me because I was thinking the same thing, not originally being from Milwaukee. First thing I noticed when I came here is how segregated it is.
Mhm.
And I was trying to figure out now, I was here, I was here for maybe about a couple months. I never even seen a white person. I was beginning to wonder whether they had any white people here in Milwaukee. And then I go on another side of town, and then I see Hispanics.
Mhm.
Then I go another side of town, I say, wait, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. How are you guys going to possibly get along together if you segregate yourself from each other?
Right.
Whereas in my hometown, it's a small town
Mhm.
in Michigan, but we're all together. You grow up with everybody's right there.
Right.
There's no certain side of town. I don't know how they even manage to pull that off, but you're stuck with the person, and you have to just learn to get along with them.
Mhm.
It's amazing how you learn to get along with people when you have to deal with them every day.
Exactly. It's
But
very interesting.
how did they get self-segregated? I mean, how did that? I know you're not. Are you from here?
I was born here, yes.
I mean, how do you manage to get people to just stay there on the side of town? They're just something they do.
Personally, I can't answer that. I would say it came to just different groups of people.
Yeah.
The Italians want to be with the
Okay.
Italians, the Germans want to be with the Germans, the Polish
Okay.
want to be with the Polish, the Hispanics want to be with the Hispanics. That's just what I was told.
Okay. So when you say self-segregated, they
They did it
choose
themselves.
to do it.
They
Okay,
choose
I
to do
get
it.
you.
It wasn't the city that did
Okay,
it.
I get you. So they just chose to live amongst those who they have.
You feel
something-
more comfortable
Okay.
with people that you relate to.
Is that a bad thing necessarily?
Yes and no.
Okay. What's bad about it? Which is
The-
obvious.
You don't have that cultural interaction, the cultural diffusion, as one would
Okay.
say. People, you could become stereotypical of other groups of people,
Yeah.
which is not good.
Right.
And people at times can become racist towards one another, and that's just something
Right.
that should have died out a long time ago.
And people, for the record, racism is not a one-way street. You can be a black person and be racist. You can be Hispanic and be racist. You can be white and be racist. You always hear the media make it look like that only white people can be racist. Really?
Well, it always takes two to tango.
Right. and you hear about it a lot. I know probably, and I probably know more black people than white people, but I know a lot of black people who are racist. They don't even realize they're racist. It's just like, the whole thing about celebrating Black History Month has always rubbed me wrong for some reason. It just always didn't seem right. How would I feel? And I heard the argument, we celebrated White History Month or Hispanic History Month. Either you have history or you don't have history. What's Black history? What exactly is Black? How do you separate Black history from history? Now, if the problem is they try to say they whitewashed history, then isn't the solution to try to put it back where it's supposed to have been?
Well, I think history should be taught, both good and bad.
Yeah.
If you don't, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Absolutely.
And whether people want to address and highlight certain parts of history, that's fine by all means, but you have to also take into consideration other things that have happened throughout time.
Yeah.
Looking at myself, I am very passionate when it comes to learning about and teaching the American Civil War.
Okay.
I do reenacting. I have reenacted as Union soldiers
Okay.
and done it all over the country and met many great people who want to preserve that part of history because of
Okay.
how big of an impact it made on our own history as such a young nation.
Okay.
So, but in doing so, you have to take into consideration everything that happened during the war
Yeah.
and things like leading up to it and even afterwards. So
Now, when you
that's
say
my
Civil
view.
War, Hilario, excuse me, what do you want people to know about the Civil War? Because most people don't even bother getting into it. What is the big thing that, or misunderstanding about the Civil War that you think people don't understand?
I would say that the Civil War was probably the first civil rights movement.
Okay.
You had the abolitionist movement, which was pushed by the Whigs and then eventually the Republican Party.
Okay.
About it was really keeping the nation together,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was eventually also made about slavery.
Okay.
How in every country you look around the world,
Right.
any major nation or empire at one point had a form of slavery.
Right.
Or to
Absolutely.
this day, they still do. And understanding where it started
Mm-hmm.
and how it ended within our nation is very important. And understanding who did it. The Democrat Party is, and this is going to be a bold statement,
Okay.
but it's the truth. The Democrat Party is the dark stain on American history that many people tend to forget.
Okay.
They were the party of racism. They were the party of the Ku Klux Klan. They were the party of the Confederacy. And a lot of the rich Southern Democrats were slave owners.
Yeah.
And at Alexander Stevens, he's a perfect example. He was a major Democrat. He was the
Yeah.
vice president of the Confederacy. And he continued being a Democrat to
Yeah.
the day he died.
Wow.
And the Republicans, you look at the first black congressmen and senators, they were all Republicans.
Right.
And a lot of them were winning races within the Deep South after the Civil War and during the Reconstruction period, all the way up to, one would say, the 1920s. Then everything started to change because you had the Great Migration, and then you had Jim Crow, and then you had the Democrat Party and the Klan following them up north and winning more seats again. So it was a fascinating, unfortunate, but also good time in our history because we've gone through so much in our short time as a nation that many other nations have gone and took them hundreds, if not thousands of years to get over. So for that to happen in a very short period here is very unique. And now look at us. We're one of the most diverse countries in the entire world.
Right.
And we continue to open our doors to legal immigration.
Key word. Key word. And talking about the Civil War again, and you hear this thing about, oh yeah, well the Republican Party wasn't the Republican Party wasn't the Republican Party of today. Like the parties actually switched.
There is no.
You heard that,
there was
right?
no switch. I can guarantee that. When did they come together and flip a coin and shake hands and say, "All right, we're officially flipping"?
You know what they're trying to say.
Exactly. They want to take credit for everything that the Republican Party in the past did.
Exactly.
The only thing is, it wasn't, the parties didn't change. The issues changed. After slavery was over, Reconstruction happened, and many other issues came forth on that. But now you look at today, the Republican Party is very diverse. Like I said earlier, we are the party of the big tent. You can find many different people from many different walks of life within our movement.
Right.
Our first vice chair of the state party is African American, Gerard Randall. You look at some of the spokespeople for the Republican Party. Bernard Pierce is a perfect example. He's another African American.
Okay.
You have people from the LGBTQ community within this movement as well. Scott Pressler has been out here registering Republicans all over the place. And but the issue is they don't make it about them.
Right.
It's about the movement and about preserving and saving our country from these reckless and crazy Democrats that have, like I said, jumped off the rails.
Yeah. They really have jumped off the rails, and I think they want the rest of us to do the same. But you heard about the party switched, and like you said, you want to try to take credit for all the good things Republicans did. Then they're going to jump over here and say, oh, well, now we changed because the issue, like you said, the issues have changed. The party didn't change. And so that was one lie they were caught in. And then you have the whole thing about the Civil War. Other countries have had civil wars, and they've made it where you have to. It's almost like you have to have a civil war to change some things in order to make things better. You think that's the case?
Not entirely.
Okay.
The way our country was founded and set up was to allow the citizens to properly change their government through legislative process, through voting. People you never would want another civil war,
Yeah.
because especially by today's standards, it would be absolutely devastating. But one could argue that we are engaged in a cultural
Okay.
civil war,
Okay.
a civil war of ideology.
Okay, ideology, not the physical battle, obviously.
No,
Right.
you have people getting in altercations in the streets, like Antifa and Trump supporters, but
Which don't really, Antifa doesn't really exist. If you ask certain people in the Democrat Party,
Yeah.
it's just a
Jerry
figment of our
Nadler.
imagination.
you ask Jerry Nadler if they exist, and
Jerry
he'll say that it's a figment of our
I don't
imagination.
think Jerry Nadler actually exists. I think he's a bad figment of my imagination. Oh my goodness.
Nothing but a suit, an empty suit.
Empty suit.
That's what they are. But that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
We are arguing over policy, and some are more vocal than others.
Okay.
But that we always encourage people to read everything that you can.
Right.
Be involved within your local, state, and federal government. As you can see, there's been a spike in involvement within school boards
Yeah.
or just local politics.
Yeah, the school boards that they're afraid to have the parents actually come and voice their concerns. They call from the parents terrorists and try to call the police on them. Are we going to have virtual school boards forever around this country, or are they just afraid of the real people?
Personally, I can't speak on that, but it will be very interesting as we go forward.
Yeah, it's so much going on, and so where do you want to see this local office in another year from now? What do you like to see happen here?
So personally, I would love to see this office continually being open every day.
Okay.
I would like there to be volunteers more involved, keeping it open, and people from the community, organizations, business owners coming in, using the space, meeting one another, getting to know one another, and working alongside state, national, and county party
Yeah.
to encourage people to be more involved with us.